Hi there, I'm Tom Burgess, and I'm very excited to welcome you to episode 1 in our new Profit for Purpose podcast series. Now today we're going to be talking about what it takes to be a good business and why responsible business is so important for a sustainable economy and how it can give greater opportunity for a fulfilled and happy life for so many. And you can listen and subscribe free to Real Agenda Radio through Amazon, Apple, Google and Spotify and all good podcast providers. In Series 1 of the Profit for Purpose podcast, we talked with Paul Lindley, founder of Ella's Kitchen, the baby food company, which I have been known to feed some of their products to my grandson, and to Chris Turner, the executive director of B Lab UK. And then there was a special series we did with Julian Richer, the founder of home entertainment retailer Richer Sounds, which is now owned by an employee-owned trust. Now, with this new series of Profit for Purpose, each episode will include interviews with business leaders, experts, academics, and media about how we can redefine success in business and build a more inclusive and sustainable economy. And Julian Richer has been instrumental in many campaigning initiatives to bring about a more ethical and responsible business, such as 0 Hours Justice, Tax Watch, Good Business Charter, and the Fairness Foundation. And it was in January this year that we talked on Real Agenda Radio to Will Snell, the Chief Executive of the Fairness Foundation, about the 5 fair necessities. And today we talk with Jenny Herrera, who is Chief Executive of the Good Business Charter. Now, I remember Julian telling me about this a couple of years ago, so I'm keen to get an update on the progress. I started by asking Jenny, what is the Good Business Charter?
So the Good Business Charter is a simple accreditation scheme around 10 components. They all have to be met. So there's 5 around employees, then there's environmental responsibility, paying your fair share of tax, customer commitment, ethical sourcing, and prompt payment for suppliers. So it's really a way to show your responsible business credentials across all these different areas.
And why would you want to do that?
Well, we think that the people who are often in the press are the ones with the scandals and the poor treatment of people and planet. And actually, there isn't really much out there to show the good guys, to signpost the good guys for what they are doing in this area. So our founder, Julian Richer, who has built Richer Sounds on these principles of responsible business, he felt like there was a real value to have a way to show the commitment that different businesses and charities and public sector organisations are making. And so he spoke to the CBI and the TUC about this back in 2019 and thought if we can bring them together, the voice of business, the voice of the workers, and agree on what those 10 will be, then this is something that we can really look to raise the bar really on business behaviour so that it becomes, our idea would be that it becomes the established norm that businesses are doing what we would say are really fundamentals of how you treat your employees, customers, suppliers, and the environment.
So it's really the sort of whole aspect of business.
It really is, because I think, obviously there are some great standards for specific areas. There's an awful lot out there around the environment. There's a Living Wage Foundation for wages. There's Fair Tax Mark. But we felt that there was real value in bringing these together. So we are connected in with the Living Wage Foundation. We cite the Ethical Trading Initiative for our ethical sourcing. So it's to bring all these things together, because our perspective is that actually people on the street, they care about it in the round. And actually, it's not enough that someone is paying the real living wage and treating their employees well if they're not paying their taxes properly and got a tax haven, or people are, they're really focused on the environment, but they're not doing anything about ethical sourcing. And I think there's a real sense that actually it's not okay to just champion 1 or 2 areas and talk about all you're doing in that if you're neglecting others. And there's a sort of entry level where we all need to be behaving responsibly.
There's a commercial advantage to this, isn't there? More and more consumers are wanting to buy from more ethical suppliers or more responsible business.
Definitely. We think that from all aspects, of course, tight labour market as well, employees, more and more people want to work for an organisation that that really cares about this stuff and has a clear framework to communicate that. So yes, we do. That's what we're saying to people. You're already doing the good stuff. If you're one of these businesses that just does all this, you may think, well, and so what? But actually, to be able to have a third-party accreditation that says, well, actually, it's been certified as doing all these things will be beneficial for consumers, more and more consumers wanting to shop with responsible businesses, employees, and hopefully down the line, procurement, investment, all these different areas where it's becoming more mainstream, isn't it, that this stuff matters, and in the midst of the cost of living crisis, even more so.
The research, has that been borne out? Consumers are changing their habits.
The difficult thing is cost, isn't it? I think that, some research has shown that people do want to shop with responsible businesses, but it's always a challenge and a squeeze on cost. But the TSB did some research a year or so ago. 97% of people believe it's important that a business acts responsibly. And I think every time there's an example of a business acting badly, it just brings the whole businesses down, doesn't it? And it's actually, no, there's plenty of businesses who are championing people, who are inclusive places to work, who are really taking all of their obligations seriously, who are paying their suppliers promptly. I can't tell you how many organisations I've talked to, and they're like, we want to join, but we've just got to sort out our prompt payment system. And you think, wow, well, if they sort that out and then join us, then that's a real win for us, because we've raised the bar. And I think, Julian in particular felt that there are a lot of businesses that are doing perhaps 6 or 7 of our 10, but they need to change 1 or 2 things in order to join us. And that's just a great result for us, because we're changing behaviour.
It's a real stress on business, and it's obviously runs through it. So if you're not paying people regularly, your supplier is not getting paid, and it goes through the whole system, doesn't it?
It does, and often small businesses are the ones at the end that suffer.
But it's becoming more difficult.
Yes, and I think that is the challenging environment we're in at the moment. We think it's important that people are paid a decent wage. We think it's important that people are paid promptly and to term, but we're obviously also acutely aware of the massive challenges that businesses are under. But there is a way to be responsible in the midst of all that, and it doesn't mean there's never tough decisions to take. Of course not. It's just that it's done within this framework of being a responsible employer. Some successful businesses that pay the real living wage and give benefits to their staff have proven that you don't have to lower it. You can make it. And I think that's the other thing of this. It's not just morally right to treat your employees well. It actually, you'll be more productive as a business, because you'll have greater retention. So you're going to have less staff turnover, less costs on recruitment. You're also going to have happier customers, because your happier staff are going to treat your customers well. And actually, it's good for business. It will, it might be an initial hit to be able to raise up to that level. But Living Wage Foundation's done a lot of research on the impact of paying people a decent wage, and the fact that they will do a better job, that they'll be happier there, and it will just make the business more profitable in the end.
So when did you start out with the Good Business Charter?
So we launched in possibly the worst time to do this, February 2020. So we had a few key founder members. Deloitte was one, Richard Sounds, of course, and at Brompton, London City Airport. And as we launched, we got a good number of small businesses join as well, because we really wanted to make sure this works for all sizes and sectors of business. And if there is a sector that looks at it and thinks, this doesn't work for us, we want to hear from them, because we want it to be something that can work sector-wide. Anyway, of course, off we went, all was good, and then we hit lockdown and the pandemic. And yet, in spite of that, over the last 2 years, we've grown to 1,000 members. In the midst of the pandemic, the TSB joined as the first retail bank, St James's Place as the first FTSE 100. So it's been encouraging. And of course, in the pandemic, there was a lot of messages coming out about the need to build back better, the importance, if government are bailing out companies, that they've paid their taxes in the first place. So it was great that we had already launched, because then we were there to say, here it is, here is a framework that you can use when you're looking at your ESG, or all the different terms that are out there. I think what we've been really encouraged to find is how our members have and a useful framework to communicate internally as well as externally. So not just the PR and the external face, but actually to be able to clearly explain to their workforce what we mean by being responsible. And these are the things that we're committed to, which has been really encouraging to see.
So some companies have signed up as B corporations. And so how does what you do compare with the B corporations?
Yeah, we'd say that we're obviously in a similar area, but we are quite different. Theirs is a full audit. It's more of an impact assessment. Obviously, they're trying to get to their 80 points out of a sort of total of 200. So they tend to focus in on different areas to build up that point score. Ours are 10 minimum standards. So if you GBC accredited, you meet all 10. It's not that you've gone deep dive in one area but don't do the other. You do all 10. So we really feel like it's just a very straightforward entry point for business. And we would say, some of our members are B Corp and they're GBC accredited, so they can see that they're different. B Corp is going in more to that purpose, and some organisations will join us and then look to go to B Corp. Others actually may already be B Corp accredited, certified, but they don't pay a living wage. So we're like, well, why don't you look at that and then you'll be able to join us as well. So yeah, we'd say quite different in the space. And of course, B Corp's global. We are fully UK based and open to charities and all other organisations and sole traders.
B corporations, there may be one point which was critical to you, say like the real living wage. They may not do that, or they may have some employees that are not on the real living wage, but they still become a B corporation because of a point system.
Average point system, as opposed to just you have to meet all 10. And Julian really we didn't want a bronze, silver, gold. We wanted to just make it really straightforward so that members of the public can look at our website, understand what our members have committed to, and they just have to do all 10 or 9 if they're charities or public sector. And don't pay tax. So
how does a company go about it? They think, well, this is a good idea. What's involved? What's the next step?
So for them, we have an accreditation guide which explains what questions will be asked. They then need to go away and do their due diligence. And they're often bringing different departments together because you've got your procurement department when it comes to prompt payment, obviously finance, HR, sustainability. So it's been quite a good way of really making sure this is something that gets embedded in, because you're bringing together different departments to look at, are we meeting the different things that we're asking them to commit to. So that process, if you're a large business, can take a while. But when it comes to actually doing our accreditation, it's a streamlined, quick process to be able to just log on online, go through and answer the questions, and then we will do our background checks and connect in with them about any specifics that they might need some guidance on, and then we'll accredit them. And at that point, we'll say, right, to complete your accreditation, you need to promote this internally, you need to promote this externally. We don't charge enough to do some great massive audit, and we're not asking all these health and safety and environment policies to land on my desk. But what we are saying is you need to promote it now with the trust that in this day and age of social media and the like, people are not going to promote it if they aren't doing it. And if they are, however, going to try and do that, we have a whistleblowing scheme on our website. So if someone does have a concern, an employee, customer, any other stakeholder, they can raise it, and we will then do a full investigation about that particular area, and of course a monitoring throughout the year.
Do you monitor everybody, or how do you sort of police it or make sure that everyone keeps to the 10 components?
So we're checking in with the larger ones, spot checks on the smaller ones, just to kind of say, well, what are you doing? And can you show us what work you've done on, your employee survey? Has that gone out? And then the renewal, that's going to be the big point. At renewal, that's where we will do further checks and get some information from them. And of course, that will also give us some great stories, hopefully, of what they are doing. But let's hear from our businesses on what they are doing in each of these areas. And actually, once we start talking to them, it's quite quick to see actually they're not really doing it. And at that point, we would have no qualms in just saying, right, well, you can't join, and just throw them out, because it is extremely important that the integrity of the accreditation is maintained for all our members.
So have you got some examples of how well it has worked for some of the businesses that are accredited? They got tangible things that they can point to.
Yeah, so Schroders Personal Wealth is probably quite a good example. They have really embedded it and done a responsible business report, and have looked at each of the 10 and what can we do. So they've looked at what we do in each area and what we're going to work on. And that's something that they meet quarterly, their responsible business team, and they just look at all these things and what else can we do, and putting in lots of different changes. We've had organisations say, I should mention that in York we launched our first GBC city. So the idea there is a little bit like the sort of regional charters that some of the mayors have launched. Rather than a council having to try and design their own, we're saying, well, look, these regional charters are working with the same partners, Living Wage Foundation, Trade Union Congress. So why don't you just use the GBC? So in York, we've had the council, the NHS Trust, York University, and Aviva, which is a big private employer here. They're all accredited and then have championed it to businesses in the area. And what we're really seeing there, what we hope, we're going to do some work hopefully with the university to show how, the impact of that, of more businesses joining. We want to get to that position where businesses are saying we are getting more business as a result of being GBC accredited. But we do have some of our businesses saying, well, we want to look at your list and see which members are there so that we can choose to do business with them. So I think we haven't yet, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and we want to now get to, okay, what tangible impacts we got? We've got lots of case studies of organisations that are seeing the value of using the framework, and we've got people saying, we went and bought flowers from this florist because they were GBC accredited, but we need, we want to build that in now, some hard metrics to show that it is really making a difference and that people will come and do more business with them as a result.
Yeah, because how about with, say like local authorities or government institutions and getting them to buy from only to buy from GBC registered companies? I mean, that's a bit like the fair tax mark is set up, hasn't it? Are you doing a similar thing?
We want to. I think that's it. It's the potential is very much there. And I think some councils said we want to get to that position. And some councils are now saying, or even I think universities that are procuring are saying, are you GBC accredited? They're not saying we'll only procure from GBC accredited organisations, but that would be the next step. They're starting with are you? And that would obviously give them a higher social value by being able to say that they are. So I think there's definitely more we can do with the council to say, well, can you move to a position where you will put that as a requirement? And we're also talking to investors and saying, well, is there something we can do there around that as well? And asking organisations to be GBC accredited. So there's a lot of different directions we could go in, and we want to really push with the social investing, because actually in the investing space, there isn't a huge amount of frameworks for the social side. There's loads around the environment, but what about the social side? And we feel this could be positioned really well there. So that's one of our areas of focus at the moment.
So what are your plans going forward now? What's the next step? You've got 1,000 companies signed up.
So the big vision is to have, thousands and thousands, to be in that situation where people walk down a high street and the shops and the cafes that have got GBC stickers on that are accredited are the ones that are busy, and that we can move to that place. So we just want to keep building up. Every week we have new organisations joining us. We do want to keep working on some of the larger ones to get that critical mass. I think, we found that working with partners has been really helpful. So CBI FSB was a huge support really to launch a streamlined version for businesses that are under 50 employees with the FSB, and they've been able to champion that. So really looking at other organisations that can join and then champion it through their networks, maybe looking more at financial services where we've already got a few, and then move across to a different sector. And I think roll out the place-based stuff. So we are in conversations with other councils around a GBC town, a GBC county, and really sort of get that firm as a model, and then hopefully see lots of other councils adopt it and champion it to their businesses. So those are the kind of ways that, because we're a small charity and we don't charge much, it's free for the first year, only £25 a year for the small organisations. So we haven't got a ginormous team here. We're a small team, but with targeted efforts to just and obviously to tell our current members to tell their clients, their suppliers, and just keep building up that momentum. Yeah, we're excited about what the future holds.
That sounds good. So how much does it cost then? £25, you said?
If you're a small business under 50 employees, it's just £25
Okay.
a year. For the larger ones, it's £1 per full-time equivalent employee, but capped at £2,500 for the big companies and capped at £500 for the public sector and charities. So, we're hoping that cost is not a barrier for anyone wanting to get accreditation. So
if you were called in by the government and you to make recommendations for better business and businesses focused, on their purpose and not so much on profit, what would you recommend?
I suppose picking off different components of ours, you've got tougher rules on tax. I think there's a lot to be done to really ensure that people are paying their full tax, as we would see in this country and as part of operating in the UK. 0 hours contracts. I think we do have a component around fairer hours. If they were just banned, then we would put a different component in there instead, and we wouldn't need to worry about people being on 0 hours contracts, unable to get mortgage or a rental contract because of some of these areas. I think there's something around the triple bottom line, the reporting on profit, people and planet. How can we require more of this shift of focus of businesses to be able to report that kind of stuff, which links in a little bit with the CEO pay ratio, which we do include within our components. But we've got to get this pay linked in more to what they're doing in the area of sustainability and how they're treating their people, not just profits. So, but yeah, as you said, also procurement would be great to see. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of work done on procurement just recently, but that social value aspect and just really championing the responsible businesses.
So what can we, the people, do to help business become more responsible, focus more on the purpose and what they're trying to do correctly than just profit?
I think we can ask the tough questions, whether that's of our employer, where we work, or whether that is when we're purchasing items or asking suppliers, because some of our members have said, well, what about our suppliers? So we'll ask your suppliers, what are you doing in the area of ethical sourcing? So I think ask the tough questions. If you're a shareholder, you could table a question for the AGM. Why aren't you signed up to the GBC? Of course, we hope that in time people will vote with their feet, that they will simply, not buy from irresponsible businesses, not want to work for them, and over time that will happen. Let's be more vocal. I think if we could all share the good examples and just be a bit more positive about what's going on, then that will inspire other businesses to do the same. Yeah, I think let's ask businesses, have you heard about this? The more people that spread the word for us on the ground, the more that we'll get businesses joining, and the more businesses that join, others will think, we ought to be doing that, and that will raise the bar on business behaviour over time.
Well, that's very interesting, Jenny. Thanks so much for explaining it all to us, and let's hope that more businesses will sign up to the Good Business Charter to demonstrate that they want to be a good business. And
I really hope so.
And so thank you very much indeed for your time, and I think you've made some good progress.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom.
So what do you think? Do contact us on info@realagendaradio.org or Twitter @realagendanet or via our website realagendaradio.org. We would love to hear your views. Now, if you know someone that you think would make a great guest for the Profit for Purpose show, let us know. We have some great marketing opportunities for any companies that would like to partner with the Profit for Purpose series on Real Agenda Radio. We would love to help you grow your business. It's not just about the quality audience that you can reach, but also use your partnership status to reinforce your responsible business credentials. Plus, we offer a special discount to companies that are signed up to the Good Business Charter, Living Wage Foundation, or the Fair Tax Mark, or as well as any B Corporation. But we think you will already probably be part of this accreditation or signed up anyway, though you may be just in the process. So here at Real Agenda Radio, we're keen to reinforce and boost the message that being a good business is good for business. More information on our website, realagendaradio.org, or you can email us direct on info@realagendaradio.org. Just like to mention, if you'd like a copy of my book, From Here to Prosperity, A New Political Agenda for a Sustainable Economy and Greater Social Justice, go to fromheretoprosperity.org. And that does include talking about ethical capitalism and talking about responsible business. Now you can also follow me, Tom Burgess, on Instagram, and that's Tom Burgess 2709, where I post info related to Real Agenda Radio and the campaigning work that I'm involved with. You can listen and subscribe free to Real Agenda Radio on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Google and Spotify, and more, where you will find a range of podcasts for positive change. That's on Real Agenda Radio. Just search for Real Agenda Radio. Now listen out for our next episode of the Profit for Purpose podcast. It'll be coming soon, and email us if you'd like to get on the mailing list. A special thanks to our sponsors at Switch, the workstation for your browser. Do you find yourself with too many tabs open and losing your place? Try switchextension.com. It's free to download. Save yourself time. I do. It's great. Now, one thing is certain, people want to see change to a more compassionate and just society, as well as more courageous politicians prepared to do the right thing for people over party, and as well as seeing more responsible business and more ethical capitalism that works for everybody. It's not happening, but it can. It's urgent, and it's up to us to make it happen. Because that's the Real Agenda. I'm Tom Burgess. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.